presence in the flesh. Okay, wow, the song ended almost perfectly on time there. So I'm going to spotlight myself. I'm going to spotlight you, Tim, so that we can officially say greetings. It's Thursday, March the 18th. Hard to believe the first quarter is almost in the rearview mirror. It's good to be with you. I'm Joel. Welcome, my partner in crime, Tim Thompson, for this week's weekly briefing. Say hello, Tim.
Hey, it's good to be with you all this week. And it's fun to tackle some of these topics that come up from community. I actually was pinged by Neil earlier this week of like, Tim, jump into this conversation about freelancers. I want to get some more opinions on how to do this. So really great. It's great to have Neil part of this club here today too, making this conversation happen.
So Neil, yeah, I was going to say, Neil, let me say officially, welcome, Neil Berkeley. Neil, always good to have you with us. You're a friend, and we have a lot of shared history. It's always good to see you. For anyone that doesn't know you, give us the 20-second byline on Neil.
Yeah, so I these days I think I've mentioned this last time. I'm more content. I'm developing a bunch of TV shows and documentary films. I've started making docs. Put my first one out back in 2012. And that's sort of become my life. Between then and now, I ran a company called Berkeley that did motion graphics for TV shows, main title packages and promos. Did a lot of that work. We still do a lot of that work, but we're partnering with companies more often than not, and I'm just creative directing. And I'm also working on the booking app Bookwork that a lot of your users have been kind enough to sign up for. We have some announcements about that coming soon. We're gonna have a job board, which is exciting. But my days are mostly developing documentary ideas these days. So a lot of the people that are on here will probably be clients of mine, hopefully.
Right, meaning you need help, right? You need help, and you need partners and resources and things like that. Yeah. Well, what I love about what you've been doing with Book, because I think we'll probably touch on that later as an application, is solving a super common problem that our industry has had for a long time, and that is, how do we efficiently, smoothly, easily work with freelancers, book freelancers, all that kind of stuff. But that's also made you somewhat of a resident expert on the freelance thing, like how to engage freelancers and how to get the most out of them and things to avoid and all that sort of stuff. And Tim, I think it was like the conversation that Neil was dragging you into was this very basic idea of how do you best engage freelancers in terms of managing costs.
And Neil, what was the kind of the genesis of the question? Because the question that came out to me was, hey, you've been engaging people on a freelance basis, and then flat rating them opposed to doing like day rates or hourly rates for that stuff, which I don't know if hourly even exists anymore. And I'm guessing you found mixed results to some of that and wanted to kind of know some pros and cons out there. But what was the genesis of that question?
I wanted to know if I was the only one having the conversation or having to have the conversation. It's a bit of a staged thing, because before COVID, it wasn't uncommon at all to have people on flat rates, but usually it was the more low touch people. People that are designing storyboards before a job kicks off. If you have to get a lot of ideas, I was totally fine farming that out to people that were working from home back then and saying, look, I'll give you this much money. If you can do it tonight, great. If it takes you 3 days, great, no problem. You just want to get it done, that kind of thing. And so that was always fine. And even like to some extent, there were art directors and creative directors that, like I said, were a little more low touch. This was less so, meaning they weren't on the box all day, in the weeds doing the work. Those people, as you get further below the line, I guess you would say, animators, character designers, people that are doing the real heavy lifting of getting a job out the door, they had to come in and they had to sit there all day, and that was just a given. And you built all your profits around that. But as COVID goes on and people are getting used to and liking working from home, there were two things that started to happen. One is, we would hire people, and there was always something in the back of my mind: how many day rates are these people getting? Because there were a couple times where I would be paying someone a full, twice, paying someone a full day rate, And they would say, well, I can't get that to that tomorrow. And I would say, what do you mean? You're working for me tomorrow. I don't, and this is, again, like, we both didn't know how to, it wasn't them being a bad person. They're just working from home. So they're filling up their days. We didn't know how to have that conversation. So now it's open to where we're talking about it. And a lot of freelancers are saying, look, I'm home all day. I work whenever I want. They're actually asking about flat rates. And so that's where I wanted to ask the group. And I was actually surprised. I thought more studios would say, bad idea, pay day rates, watch your profit margins. I was surprised that I think most of the feedback that was given on the certain community was in favor of flat rates. So it was kind of cool. It's kind of validating.
And I think I put up there as part of the conversation that flat rates are very interesting. I mean, we promote a lot of value-based proposition. So the fact that you're paying for a service, getting it done, but just like we have to deliver our goods and they have to be certain qualities, you have to make sure the people you're hiring flat rates get the same executable results. Which I'm guessing a person you're going into that conversation is someone you already know anyway and could probably trust. But I think what we're missing in flat rates is like the ability to produce efficiencies into a project. So you can imagine booking somebody for 10 days, but as the project goes along, making certain creative decisions and only really needing 7 days. Now, a 10-day booking often requires you to do something with those 3 extra days, but a busy production company could then move that artist to a different project, keep them busy some other way, or really just pay them a cancellation fee. When you do a flat rate, you're missing that portion of it. So the ability to produce or oversee is great because you can gain some efficiencies. But if you don't have that, I would imagine a flat rate is a much better deal for you because you're basically saying, I'm giving you the money and I'm not going to babysit. I want those results as promised on time to the quality I want. So it's a very different value proposition, isn't it?
Well, it's interesting because I thought a lot about your reply, and it totally makes sense. There's another way to look at it, that efficiency can be built in on the profit side instead of going, saying we think it's 7, but it might be 8 or 10. Saying we think it's 7, but let's try and do it in 5 or 6, and let's negotiate that flat rate based on that. And instead of paying a kill fee, you're paying a penalty for an extra day. So I think there's 2 ways to look at that. The thing I struggle with is I even though I'm a business owner, I do tend to empathize with the freelancer and those freelancers that do get cut short. Like some companies aren't as nice as you just described, and they just say, hey, we got done early, you go to the beach. And these freelancers are like, well, no, I have 3 more days on this thing, and even a kill fee. So there's that's more of an emotional decision, but I do think.
I think there is, and this is probably a pretty good conversation about this, because I think there's the reason you go for freelancer over staff is for flexibility. It's the reason why you're going to hypothetically pay a higher rate for someone, because you gain flexibility. They're kind of on again, off again. They're honestly just temps. Like they're a temporary employee, like if you were hiring a temp. And it's supposed to be that ability to switch on and off. I think within our industry, some of these freelancers have been banking on all the dollars instead of charging a higher rate and then having some of that flexibility. I think that there's kind of been some kind of workarounds, or that fudging hasn't been as easy to do with the higher demand of work and freelancers. So we have backed ourselves into certain corners as business owners to figure that out. But it's like a curious nature of that, isn't there? That you have to kind of like, what is this freelancer engagement then really, and what are the benefits to have a freelancer engagement if it's not for that flexibility? Pretty tricky to navigate.
Yeah, a lot of the responses talked about having regular check-ins, and that's why when I say like the below the line, like if we're talking about in live action terms, and we have creative directors, art directors, all the way down to roto artists and coordinators, whatever. The people that are more closer to the line, I guess the creative directors, I could see a version of a lot of jobs where those people are on flat rates with regular check-ins, because they're not busy with doing all the heavy lifting all the time. So I was really surprised and interested in the feedback that was on.
And then when you're doing the flat rate booking, or it's pay at the end, right? You're not giving money up front and money on delivery. You're just saying, hey, when you deliver, I'll pay you. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
What would you do if somebody didn't follow through with the commitment as you expected?
I mean, it's not that different than on a day rate. You know, if you hire someone for a day and they don't deliver, what do? You don't hire them again.
Well, but there is something of like, I bought your time opposed to I bought your results. So there is a different kind of equation there.
Yeah, I think, well, if they just don't do it and they say they're unavailable, then that's a whole other conversation. Yeah. I mean, if someone, that's something every work from home employee or everyone working with distributed talent's probably gonna have to deal with at some point.
Yeah. But like I can imagine like asking someone to rig a character and they deliver it, it's rigged, but it's total garbage. It's just not what you had asked for from the beginning. They clearly didn't put enough time into it, but they're saying, no, you asked for rigging. I gave you what I promised. And you had this disagreement and you have a flat rate opposed to being able to, and I think you're solving that problem with your regular check-ins, but like, is it actually working or not, and cutting it short? I guess that's that manages that expectation for you and for them, and allows you to get out of something that's not working. I think it's important to know about that occasionally.
Yeah,
hey Tim, it's Rob Wagner. I have a quick, if you want to hear it.
Yeah. Hey Rob, good to hear your voice.
Hey, how you doing? Yeah, just real quick. I know you guys are in this. I don't want to interrupt you, but the way that we deal with that, and it works really well, is we have a structure that's 20%, 20%, and 40%. So it's 20% upon one milestone, 20% upon a second milestone. Call the first milestone approved design. Call the second milestone approved animation, and call the third milestone approved final. So we give our remote artists an option of taking 20%, 20%, and 40%, or 100% at the end, and that seems to solve any worries.
That's very smart, Rob. So we should say Rob has stimulated works. He works a lot with people, different countries, different time zones, whatever. And in that work case, that idea of check-ins can be more difficult if you're outsourcing to something that they're working when you're asleep. So it's a kind of a different approach to it that way too. Good insights there, Rob.
That's like, I think Tim, you mentioned that. It's like treating them like little studios. That's how we get paid.
Yeah. Well, I know the group that had joined us kind of in the summer when we were talking through a lot of the pandemic and moving things and trying to become flexibility. And we had some guys from the Monday, what's that called, Joel? Monday morning, the freelancer that gets there.
Yeah, was that the Monday meeting, I think? The
Monday meeting, that's what it is, Monday meeting. And when I was invited into their group to listen to them talk, they kind of do consider themselves as mini studios. That's the way they were approaching it too. And they kind of love that idea of engaged as a specialist opposed to engaged by the time. The other part is like, I find like what we want to do as production companies is be able to give a person I booked a day more than one project, and kind of leave it up to me to decide what they're working on on a day-to-day basis, project by project basis. And the flat rate, you're kind of locking yourself into that one project at that one cost for that one role.
It hasn't come up yet, but I'm curious if studios have thought about or even been approached by freelancers that are little studios. So how much you want to pay this person. If they want to farm out part of it to someone they know and pay them directly, like, is that happening? Probably.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm seeing it happening, and of course, those are generally larger studios that are hiring the 1, 2, 3 person shops. But maybe to just add some color to your question, Neil, about how much you were surprised how many people and owners were saying, yeah, we sort of prefer the flat bid or the project price engagement. I can tell you this from my experience of my days when I was running Impossible, that I think here was the situation that was very common. We would hire a freelancer and say, okay, we need this person and it's going to take 10 days to get this thing done. What would always happen was the work would, as we all know, the work expands to fill the time allotted to it. And so the freelancer would never come under. If anything, they were going to spend every hour and every dollar, and then, oops, we're going to go over. We need an extra day or two. But what I'll say is that's where you think, oh, a project price is going to save me from that. But, well, Tim, you can answer this. Isn't that more of a producing failure than a pricing and negotiating failure?
Um, yeah, right. The term failure is kind of harsh, but I do think that
Right.
the opportunity and the responsibility of production is to kind of be on top of that, right? Like there's this idea that production has this oversight of what the expectations were, how much progress we're making, what it requires to finish the project as the train's going down the road, as I say, and then get it delivered and get it done. And that oversight that they have there is some of what you gain inside of your production company's machine, like how you deal with those issues, how often you talk about them, the way you deal with them proactively allows you to capture more and more opportunity for yourself, for your company, and for the artists that work for you. And about to be honest, one thing when I use some discernment about freelancers is that a lot of work that you give to a freelancers, the knowledge is no longer retained in your business. That person, as soon as they get done working for you, they pop over to someone else and they're doing that same kind of work or similar work for another person. And that knowledge that you just invested those 4 weeks into somebody and the knowledge they gain go benefit to another company, opposed to a staff person where you're piling that knowledge into them and then that knowledge is retained. You can lean up against that knowledge again and explore and expand and grow. So there really is like a nuance to how each company owner has to kind of think through of like, how do I want to function as a company? Do I want to be hands off, flat rate, let the vendor decide how that project's going to get done? I'm just trying to get the product, the pieces together to composite and finish. Or can I actually grow other people, develop them further, and develop my own company's method further? And Neil, I think that your investments, watching you over the years, like you kind of lean on these creative teams to get you those elements because you yourself are a creative hub that can make those pieces work together. So I'm going to get some freelance as well that way.
It's interesting what you said about it being a producerial problem. Because freelancers don't care about your profits, and why would they? And they will, if you get 10 days, they're going to work 10 days, they're going to bill you for 10 days for sure. So is it a better model for certain people to say, okay, you have 10 days to the producer, but here's how much you can spend. So it's on them to go get this person you love to say, okay, yeah, I'll do it. Give me 10 days. It'll probably take me 4, but pay me that much money. You're still making that profit if it's built into that math. Right.
Yeah. I think you just nailed it. Yeah. If you're giving that producer all the responsibility, but also all the authority, yes, then you're going to have more control and more options than the way I was doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
that is true. Like,
sorry, go ahead.
Oh, Mark is here. Mark from Monday meeting is on the call here.
Oh, there he is. Mr. Mark. Hey, we should should we drag him in and get his perspective real quick? Let's see if Mark is willing to chat, if I can grab him.
And Neil, I'm curious, like, are you with book, the ability to kind of bring a freelancer, book that person for that time, all that kind of stuff. I don't know what your interaction is with the, how people are responding, but are they asking for a flat rate stuff as well? I'd be curious.
Well, what's interesting is, there's a couple hundred freelancers on there, and just aesthetically and conceptually, they all really love it. They love that it does that, especially the availability. The problem is freelancers aren't good at keeping calendars for the most part, or writing things down. That's become a thing. So I wonder if it would be easier to add something on there where you could just book someone on a flat rate. And just say, look, regard whether you have to go to the dentist on Wednesday or whether you're working for someone else, here's what we can afford, or at least give them that option. Because like I said, we've looked at so many calendar integrations and we've talked to so many freelancers, and most of the time freelancers are like, yeah, it's just all in my head. I know what I have to do tomorrow.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so that's why I appreciate the book, is being able to see that. Hey, Mark, thanks for jumping on the call. The question that was coming up when we mentioned Monday meeting is really like, with the group that you work with, you guys kind of consider yourself like small studios, right? You kind of take on the creative responsibility and execute it. You might get paid by the day or flat rate, but you don't see yourself as basically a temp employee waiting to be told what to do. You take the responsibility and run with it.
Yeah, 100%. Most of the stuff I do is either direct to client or with like another agency or studio that hands me the full project. Like there might already be a little bit of direction, and like maybe some references pulled already or whatnot. But then, yeah, I just bid the job, either do it, myself if it's a smaller thing, or assemble a team of freelancers through like my networks of people that I trust and that are in a similar boat to me. And for the most part, if I hire people like that, it is more or less day rate stuff. But when I have gotten flat rate, at least for me being an artist, producer, direct, like, I mean, I'm wearing a lot of hats. If I just have like a fixed cost and I can build that budget out, and then I, as an artist on the job too, like, if I can be more efficient in that regard as well, then like my profit, I earn more profit, so
Yeah. Which
without having to like dance.
Yeah, I think we
I was
all
just gonna
love
say,
that
without
idea.
having to like juggle people's schedules, and like I know that this guy will be 9 to 6 this week. I know this guy over in Europe will be like finishing up while I'm getting on, and just try to keep the machine kind of going. To be honest, I'm not running massive jobs, so it's still doable with day rates. But if I can do just a flat rate and say like, hey, I've got X number to throw at you for 2 weeks of work or three weeks of work, more or less these artists that I work with are down to do that because it's guaranteed income for them. So yeah, I don't know. It's a balance, but
Yeah.
I see more project rate stuff happening.
So I guess that's
I'll just play the opposite a little bit. I just wonder like about the fairness factor. Like, is it, if I was once paying a certain amount for an end result, and I can keep on paying that same rate and get that same result, I kind of get that ability. But if I personally as a production company have the ability to gain some efficiency in my process, I feel like that should be my reward, and not have to like be obligated to keep on paying the talent to keep on doing something that I honestly like. It turned out more efficient. I figured out something. I changed my creative mind or something like that. So it's a weird, like, what is fair? Do I still owe you the money even though I solved the problem? Or I don't know. That's a challenge.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, honestly, especially with like remote work now too, and like people all over the world having different schedules. There's, my family's on the other side of that door right now. So like just juggling schedules and to have someone need to be on the box, like ready to be pinged on Slack or whatever from like 9 to 6. Like, I know that's not really a reality. Like, I would love for that to be a reality, but people have lives going on all around. And so like, essentially, if I'm like, I need this shot, and this shot done, round one, do there, version 1, round 1, this time, round 2, round 3, round 4, like have all these milestones. If they hit it and the ball is moving forward, like I don't care if it's really taken them 4 hours or more. I mean, sure, if we ran it hourly, like I probably could increase more profit that way. But at the end of the day, I'm just trying to execute the animation and the vision of the piece. And, if they are efficient and can do production quality that, passes the test, I mean, I guess good for them. Like, I don't really know.
There's a level like, who wants to babysit? Neil, it sounds
and
like
honestly, there's not many people that are like that. Like,
Yeah.
if you give them a shot or a handful of shots, it's probably going to take them most of that booking anyway.
by that time. Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Mark,
I
Neil, it sounds like Mark's
that's where
agreeing with
you
you.
Huh?
It sounds
I-
like Mark's agreeing with you.
Yeah, totally. It sounds like it just reminded me that, the profit thing, before you have to build that into your offer. So when you do go to that person and say, I've got this much money over this many days, you kind of have to have like, this is where my profit is, So before you even talk to the person, you need to know, okay, I need them to say yes to this. Anything that goes higher eats into my profits.
I mean, I build out my budgets, right? Like, and I'm like, I've got X for this artist, essentially, and like I could go day rate, but then all of a sudden, if they don't get the shot done in time or whatever, like all of a sudden I've paid all that money and the shot's not done. I mean, the thing that could happen on the reverse end. But if I'm just like, hey, here's X amount of dollars, the final needs to be done, on this date with all these check-ins. I mean, if it takes them a long time to do it because they've already accepted the money, or like, I don't know, it's worked to my benefit at this point, but like, I know it could also backfire,
Now I'll say, like, with the factors method, which is what we kind of created and promote, we have this idea of the splits where you basically are allocating your direct costs and you protected your profits and your overhead. So that part of it, if you're sticking with that kind of a model, what your maximum expense for the project should be. I think that's super awesome. And in a way, Neil, like, with this proposition, you're kind of moving the responsibility from an inside producer to outside individuals to make sure that they're keeping it going. Someone like Mark, you can hear, like, he's taking on that responsibility for you. So part of the service you're paying him is knowing you can get it done and get it done on time. That's a pretty awesome kind of model for a smaller company to keep that going. I just think at larger companies, eventually you're going to have a production and operations team inside, and you're going to want to move things around. The busyness of a certain schedules of agencies need to have that flexibility, and that's where you might lose interest or ability to flat rate. Because you have enough work that you can, as shot by shot expenses. No, just give me day by day, and I'll keep you busy for whatever your booking time is.
Well, that's also good. That's kind of what a salary is, right? Yes, you are paying someone a salary because you want that talent, but you're also paying a premium to take them off the market. Right. So you're kind of losing a little bit of profit just so that person doesn't go work for your competition. Yeah. So if that person's that good, you get 3 of them just to do work and not worry about whether they're on the market or not. I think that's
yeah. And I mean, I'll tell you this too, like, the freelancer pool that I work with, like, is from a handful of Slacks. A lot of people are remote. Well, especially now, a lot of people are remote. And I mean, if you burn someone, that's going to spread like wildfire. Like, you're going to ruin yourself, I mean, similar to how it works in, I guess all over, but especially in these little remote circles of like groups and communities that, you can post something in a Slack and someone responds. I mean, I don't know many artists that are willing to take a chance to, like, not get the job done and then have that, kind of spread out to other people that are hiring,
Let me interrupt, guys, because we're at our 30-minute mark. We do want to respect the people that show up with only a half hour available. Happy to chat a few minutes more beyond this, but before we wrap, Neil, for people that are maybe a good fit for your book platform, where can they go learn more about that?
Yeah, go to bookwork.com. It's BOOQWORQ. You can learn, there's FAQs, there's a giant FAQ, there's tons of videos about it. You can sign up for it and kick the tires on it. Like I said, we've got a big announcement coming out probably in a couple weeks. Okay. With a job board where everything it does, you can send it all to a job board, which is very exciting.
And this is,
bookwork.com.
And so this is for both owners, like on the studio side, that are booking talent, but also for people like Mark and the freelancer side too, right? Both people are joining.
Mark, I think it's perfect. I'd love to do a demo with you. I'll do a demo with anybody. You can also book a demo on there with me, and I'll do it with you. But Mark, this is perfect for you because, like, if you go on there right now, there are really talented people on there. So the enterprising creative director or executive producer that's working on their own could really do well on there with the people that are on there.
Yeah, that would be awesome. And, I'll extend the invite too. If
and
you
I get,
come on,
I get 10% of making any connection that you're making.
No, but, if you want to come out onto a Monday meeting and talk about this stuff too, I mean, that's a whole group of people like me and freelancers. So
okay, great. That would be great. Yeah, thank you.
Well, thanks, guys. Thanks for jumping into this conversation. It was really fun to have you, Mark, jump in and join us here kind of ad hoc, which was really great. But big
thanks for having me.
Neil. Yeah, thanks, Neil, for jumping in and sharing your perspective. Tim, you want to wrap it up for us, and we'll let everybody go.
Sure, why not? And Tom too. If there's a Tom here, let me know.
Go for it.
Yeah, it's I love these conversations, and really, truly, this came right from inside of RevCommunity. So it's still happening. The conversation, I see the comments rolling through. There's also a couple conversations talking about NFT, because I know that's like the big buzz happening right now, and one of our clients worked directly with Beeple on a lot of his projects. So I'm hearing a lot of firsthand accounts of what that's like. So we'll be kind of keeping that conversation going, but love to have you guys be part of that and just keep us posted. What's going on with you? Joel and I truly, live so that you guys could thrive in business, life, and career. Let us know what we can do to make that happen.
All right. Thanks everyone for being here. We'll see you on the platform. Keep the conversation going. And next week, we'll see you for another weekly briefing. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.